let's try now. Hopefully you should be able to hear me now, no matter what I do. I check my audio before coming on. And okay, I'm going to wait for the comments to catch up. You hopefully should be able to hear me now. If you can, give me a yes in the chat. Never fails. I double checked my correct mic was connected before I hopped on, but looks like that didn't. Yes, looks like that didn't stick. So, hello. Thank you all for bearing with me today. And as I was babbling on, talking to myself, welcome. If you're joining live, say hi in the chat, Sarita. Thank you. Hello to those of you in Australia, Ida, Dr. Hassan. Great to have you. Jennifer, Monica. Awesome. So glad to have all of you here. So, what I was saying when you were not able to hear me is that today we were planning to have a discussion, me and my co-coach from the Resilient program, Wendy Cary. We were planning to have a discussion about overcoming perfectionism at work. Unfortunately, Wendy is a bit under the weather today, so we're going to reschedule that conversation for a few weeks from now. But I wanted to respect the fact that so many of you RSVP'd, you made the time out of your calendar. So I still wanted to come on and deliver you some valuable content. So instead of talking about overcoming perfectionism today, we're going to talk about a related topic, which is 5 ways to strengthen your confidence at work. Hopefully that sounds good to you. If it does, give me a +1 in the chat if that works for you. Talking about 5 ways to strengthen your confidence at work. And again, if you're just joining, say hello in the chat. Let me know where you're watching from. I always like to say if you hear something that stands out to you today, that resonates with you, please help your neighbors out. Type it in the chat. And I love for these sessions to be interactive, to be a conversation with all of you and to hear what's resonating with you. So with that, I want to introduce myself. I am Melody Wilding. I'm a professor of human behavior, an executive coach, and the author of a book called Trust Yourself, Stop Overthinking and Channel Your Emotions for Success at Work. A moment ago, I mentioned I was supposed to come on live with my co-coach in our program, Resilient. So I am also the creator of Resilient, which is a first of its kind comprehensive program to help sensitive high achievers regain their confidence, master their emotions, and reach their full potential at work, get out of their own way. And that's a lot of what we're going to be talking about today. And it's a really exciting time here because we are in the middle, actually, we're nearing the end of the early enrollment period for Resilient. So if you are at all interested in getting the details about this program, there is a QR code here on the screen. Open your phone, open the camera app, and it will bring up a link to the page. We'll also make sure the link is in the chat. It's melodywilding.com/resilient if you want to get the details about that. And what's really special about this program is that it is specifically tailored to who you are as a sensitive striver. I'm going to talk more about this in a minute. But as a sensitive striver, you are wired differently. And that means you need a more specialized approach to your personal growth and your personal development. And so inside of Resilient, you get direct access to me and to Wendy, and we help you work through different workplace challenges you're facing. Everything from speaking up, articulating your viewpoint, dealing with people that have a more dominant personality than you, reaching goals, whether that's a promotion, a salary raise, stepping up into the aspiring leader that your team needs without feeling like an imposter. And maybe most importantly, navigating setbacks, because they're going to happen to each of us every day. And we need to know how to be resilient in the face of those. So our alumni from this program, they have achieved amazing things. Seriously, we are just floored by these people. They get skip level promotions, 6-figure bonuses. We've even had folks run for and win public office. But what is more meaningful to us are their inner transformations. How our alumni say the people in their lives notice how much happier, how much lighter, more optimistic they are. And that they feel that difference in themselves too, because they feel safe disconnecting from work, actually allowing themselves to rest and have an identity outside of what they do for a living. They have more focus and energy. They have a sense of freedom because they're not people pleasing and they feel comfortable in their own skin. And what is the common denominator to all of this? What do you think the common denominator is to all of this? Go ahead and type a word or a phrase in the chat. And let me see who else is here. Sabrin, we will get that link for you in just a moment. Clayton, great to see you. Jennifer, Robbie, great to have you here. So, what do you think underlies everything I just shared? What do you think the common denominator is underlying achieving all of those results I mentioned? Go ahead, type a word or a phrase in the chat. Rob, great to have you here. Thanks for coming. Yes, they're coming in now. Kara said confidence. Stephanie said trusting yourself. Exactly. Yes, confidence, trusting yourself, believing in your worth and who you are. And that's exactly what we are going to talk about today. So, yes, Amber said accepting that there is nothing wrong with us and to use our strengths to trust our choices and speak up. 100%. I love that. So, as I mentioned a minute ago, my specialty is helping sensitive high achievers. Call these people sensitive strivers. These are professionals, maybe like yourself, who think and feel everything more deeply. They are more attuned to their own emotions as well as sensing those of other people. And that perceptiveness is a huge, huge gift. But if it's not managed, leveraged, channeled effectively, it can lead to self doubt, overthinking, imposter syndrome. So I want you to say yes in the chat if any of these signs I read resonate with you. So there's 7 of them. So some signs you may be a sensitive striver. You experience emotions to an unusual level of depth and complexity. You have a strong desire to exceed expectations and get an A plus in every aspect of your life. You need time to think through decisions before you take action. You have an inner critic that never takes a day off. You are keenly able to sense what other people are feeling. And maybe because of that, you put other people's needs ahead of your own and you end up saying yes too much. And you try to do everything right. And you judge yourself very, very, very harshly if you make mistakes. So I see a lot of yeses coming in that a lot of you are relating to this. So it's clear in everything I just shared that it's very common for sensitive strivers to struggle with insecurity, second guessing themselves, especially when it comes to work, where there's a lot of ambiguity and pressure, complexities, challenges. And so that's what we're here to talk about today. How do you gain more confidence in yourself at work? How do you gain more self-belief? Right? Clients come to me all the time wanting to get a promotion, wanting additional responsibilities, perform better in their work, grow their businesses, or most of all, what I find is people simply want to feel good and proud about who they are and the work that they do and how they do it. And at the end of the day, they're all looking for essentially the same thing, which is self-confidence. And confidence is something nearly everyone wants more of at work, and with good reason. Because typically, the number one thing standing in our way of greater success is ourselves, right? Who can relate to being the number one thing that gets in your own way? Being you. Type me in the chat if you are someone who tends to get in your own way. Now, nevertheless, confidence can feel really hard to achieve, and it can feel very hard to make it be something that's sustainable, something that you can actually hold on to. So what I hear from people the most is, how do I be consistently confident? How do I not have these big spikes and then low lows and feel like I'm on this roller coaster? And much of this is due in large part to the many, many misconceptions we have about confidence. So today, what I want to do is dive into 5 of the biggest confidence building myths that are only reinforcing your stress and your insecurity. And I want to give you new mindsets to embrace and start practicing. So, how does that sound? All right. I see a lot of me's coming in. Catherine was said, I definitely feel that roller coaster of confidence and security, confidence and security. All right. So let's dive into those 5 myths and those 5 new mindsets to embrace. Okay. Myth number one. Myth number one, you have to feel confident in order to take action. How many of you have heard that? I have to wait till I feel fully confident to do the thing, to raise my hand to speak up in that meeting, to take on additional responsibilities, to put myself forward for the promotion, to have a conversation with that person that's more senior to me. How many of you have felt that? You have to feel confident to take action. The truth here is you have to take action to feel confident. We have to reverse the equation. So someone help me out in the chat by typing that. Myth number one, you have to feel confident to take action. The truth, you have to take action to feel confident. Now, most high achievers operate under the assumption that you have to feel confident before you do something. The problem is that you have probably found firsthand that you end up waiting around. You end up waiting for that amorphous, mysterious confidence to come. And as a result, you never end up taking the necessary steps or risks that you need to take to be successful. Waiting until you feel ready is a safe option. Feels like a safe option, rather. But it's actually a losing bet. So instead, we have to reverse the equation. In other words, you have to take action in order to feel confident. And think about any risk you've taken in your life. Maybe you put yourself forward for a promotion you weren't 100% sure you were ready for, and then you got that role. That is a huge confidence boost, right? So taking courageous action results in a sense of competence. When you take courageous action, you see that you can succeed, be resilient, learn, grow from a situation. It provides you proof that you actually do have knowledge, skills, capabilities, strengths. I want you to remember this. Confidence is a byproduct of success. It's not an outcome. It is not a prerequisite. So someone type that in the chat. Confidence is a byproduct of success. It's an outcome, not a prerequisite. Yes. So Vivi was saying, take action in order to feel confidence. And Catherine was saying, like having children, you'll never be ready for that perfect time. You'll be waiting forever. Yes. And Catherine said there is no perfect time, 100%. Yes. And Catherine was also touching on the fact that we conform to what we have been taught as children by society. 100%. 100%. And I like to say, or I find myself saying often, that so much of the work I end up doing is unlearning old conditioning, because we've been taught don't do something until you're ready. Don't do something until you've learned enough, you've taken enough courses, you've got other people's permission and blessing to do it. Don't do something until you've been somewhere long enough to prove yourself. But by doing that, we take ourselves out of so many different opportunities. So excellent point. All right, so that is myth number one. You have to feel confident to take action. Truth, you have to take action to feel confident. All right, that brings us to myth number two, that confidence is achieved through epic success. The truth is that confidence is achieved through small wins. I'm going to repeat that again. Someone help me out. Type it in the chat. Myth two, confidence is achieved through epic success. The truth, confidence is achieved through small wins. We're used to equating confidence with big, flashy displays of success, right? We see people on social media talking about the amazing new role they got and big salary and they're on a cover of a magazine or a big stage. So we think of confidence, we equate it with winning an award, landing a big client, right? But the problem with that approach is that it can result in this perfectionistic addiction to achievement, this perfectionistic idea that success and confidence is very black or white, it's very all or nothing. And what I find is that many sensitive strivers fall into the habit of moving the goalpost. And I want you to imagine a football field. And I'm not extremely knowledgeable about football by any means, but at least I can tell you this that imagine yourself on a football field. You are trying to kick a goal from the 20-yard line. But when you miss it, you move yourself back further away from the goal. You move yourself back maybe to the 30 or 40-yard line, almost like you punish yourself. You make it more difficult for yourself and you tire yourself out in the process. And you may notice that you do the same thing with your goals. Before you've even accomplished one goal, you've already raised the stakes on what qualifies as success. I know I am extremely guilty of this, that I'll say I have one goal and then as I'm working towards it, I change what my metric is. Authentic confidence doesn't have to be showy and big and shiny and braggadocious. In fact, authentic confidence comes from sustainable progress over the long term. And there is science behind this idea of small wins that may not be big, may not be sexy, but a whopping 91% of people say that focusing on smaller goals and doing that repeatedly and consistently increases or greatly increases their confidence. And that's because as you're making small achievements along the way, you're gaining more self efficacy. You have a feeling of mastery, and that gives you more momentum, more motivation, energy, and self belief to crush even bigger goals. So, this idea of internalizing your successes is a major part of what we focus on inside of Resilient. Internalizing what you are doing well, celebrating every small win along the way. Even if something didn't go as you planned, you still grew from it. You still learn to navigate discomfort or have a difficult conversation, to set a boundary. And you deserve to applaud yourself and give yourself credit for that growth and that strength that you showed. And for those of you that do struggle with imposter syndrome, this idea of taking in those small wins and recognizing those is huge, because imposter syndrome is fundamentally a disconnect between how you see yourself and what is true in reality. And a lot of that comes down to the fact that you are not able to take in the good. You're not able to take in information about your capabilities, your strengths, your successes. So, if you are someone that struggles with imposter syndrome, then paying attention to and giving yourself credit for those small wins is all the more important. So, that's myth number 2. Confidence is achieved through epic success. The truth is that confidence is achieved through small wins. So, to really drive that home, I want all of you to share a small win you had this week. What is something you can celebrate that happened this week, that you did well, that you showed character, and that you are proud of? Share it here in the chat, and I just want to check in with all of you here. All right. Okay, let's see. Amber was saying, it's like losing weight or going to get in shape at the gym. Small steps and effort start slowly turning into wins, and then it gets easier and easier, turning into bigger wins. 100%. Exactly. And Catherine said, walk before you run. And running is exhausting and creates burnout, so you have to walk throughout life. Yes, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So what small win can you celebrate today? Tell us in the chat. Let us celebrate with you and cheer you on. Let's move on to myth number 3, that confidence is equal to unwavering self-belief. The truth is that confidence fluctuates depending on the situation. So I'm going to repeat that one more time. Myth number 3, confidence equates to unwavering self-belief. The truth is that confidence fluctuates depending on the circumstance. Don't hold yourself to the impossible standard of being confident 100% of the time. No one feels that way. And if they say they do, then there's a good chance they are lying to you. That's just the truth. It's normal. It's normal for your confidence to go up and down. You should expect it to, especially if you are a top performer, if you are someone who is continually pushing and challenging yourself, then you will naturally have highs and lows. And this is due to something called the change curve. There's a very predictable pattern in science which shows that as you're pushing yourself to do new and different things, your confidence temporarily dips. You temporarily hit this trough of doubt, irritability, skepticism. What many people do when they hit that low point, they hit that dip, is they quit. They throw in the towel and they say, forget this, I can't do this. See, this always happens to me. They get into victim mode. But what's important to know is that the change curve starts going back up. So what you need to do is hang on through that period. And what our clients discover is that seeing through those hard times is what gives way to new strength, growth, possibility, opportunities. So for example, I want you to think back on the last time you started a new job. Maybe it was recently, maybe it was many years ago, but try to put yourself back in that situation. Even though you were probably excited when you were starting your new job, you probably had reservations and fears about whether or not you could actually do the role successfully. Maybe you felt very overwhelmed in your first week or in your first few months. The fact that you didn't feel confident right away doesn't mean that you had imposter syndrome. It simply means that you needed to give yourself more time to adjust to the change. And that's very true for us sensitive strivers. We need more time to adjust to situations. And I'm willing to bet that maybe 6, 8 months into that new role, you did start to settle in and you began to feel more comfortable. And this example goes to show that confidence is a fluctuating resource. It depends on how situations are changing in your life, your career, your energy levels, the people you surround yourself with. And that one's important. It underscores the fact that we need to be very intentional about our boundaries, our self-care, our career path, and our relationships, frankly. All right, that was myth number 3. Confidence equates to unwavering self-belief. And the truth is that confidence fluctuates depending on the circumstances. So don't hold yourself to that expectation that you will be fully confident 100% of the time. Okay, let's see here. Amber was saying the win she's celebrating today is self-care after recovering from being ill and making a plan to get baby steps back into the gym this week. Amber, we're rooting for you and hope you feel 100% very soon. Kara was saying, took it one task at a time this week. Yes. And hello from India. Great to have you here. Let's move on to myth number 4. Confidence involves being pushy, loud, aggressive. The truth is that confidence does require assertiveness, but real confidence is often understated. Going back to our comment earlier about conditioning, we've been conditioned to equate confidence with bravado, outgoingness, aggressiveness. And we see confident people portrayed in the media and movies and books as the gregarious, they're the fast talkers, mover and shakers, the person who holds their head high when they come into a room. They instantly command everyone's attention. That's what we think of when we think of someone who's confident rather. And that's one version of confidence. Often I would say overconfidence, but that is not the whole story. You can have quiet confidence. And being quietly confident, it means you are grounded, you are self-assured, you are secure in who you are without necessarily having to be loud about it. So this requires that you have a willingness to speak up about what you believe is right, even if it means that you might be rejected or others might disagree with you. It requires that you are humble enough to learn from other people and not make it mean that you're inferior. It requires accepting your mistakes without endlessly beating yourself up or self sabotaging, advocating for your needs and setting boundaries, and giving yourself praise and validation instead of constantly seeking approval from others. I want you to think of someone you know that projects quiet confidence and type in the chat, what do you admire about that person? What do you notice about how they carry themselves and what makes them quietly confident? Go ahead and type in the chat. I would love to hear who in your life do you see as quietly confident? Yeah. And Sabrin was saying, so true. I even started to change my personality to show how confident I am. I hear this all the time from sensitive strivers who say, I tried really hard. I tried really hard to act like my colleague or act like my boss and make myself more outgoing and more talkative and uh, have more aggressive viewpoints. And number one, that's very exhausting because you're literally putting on a mask, right? You're acting, and it leads to more imposter syndrome because you're trying to be something you're not, and then you're reinforcing this belief subconsciously that I'm not good enough the way I am. I have to change who I am in order to be good enough and fit in and be respected. And I hope what many of you are taking away from this is that that's not true. That actual confidence is being strong in who you are and knowing how to channel the qualities you have most effectively. Yeah. So talk to me again about who do you know that projects quiet confidence and what stands out to you about that person. I want to read some of your remarks. Catherine was saying they don't need approval from anyone. Robbie said, meekness is not weakness, but it's more than often not perceived that way. Really common for sensitive strivers because we think before we act. And that can be perceived as meekness when in fact we're thoughtful, we're deliberate, we're, I want to say cautious, but even cautious can have a negative connotation to it. But being thoughtful, deliberate, diplomatic, there's tremendous strengths of thinking and contemplating before you just rush into a situation. Ratnam was saying that the people who are quietly confident have a feeling of belonging. And let's see. Sorry, I'm scrolling here. Sabrin was saying that they trust their views and their vision 100%. Manor was saying they have knowledge. And Amber was saying that her husband projects it and she admires that the way he always says things the correct way, not loud and aggressive, but with authority. Yeah, I think that's really key there. Okay, let's go to our final myth, our fifth and final myth, that confidence is motivated by self-criticism. The truth is that confidence is motivated by self-compassion. This is something else we talk about in Resilient a lot. And again, if you're at all interested in learning about the program, early enrollment is ending pretty soon, so you want to check out that QR code here on the screen. But this is something we end up talking about a lot in Resilient. And a major aha many of the sensitive strivers in the program have is that they have spent decades trying to motivate themselves to be more confident by judging themselves, by saying, I need to do better. I should be further along by now. How many of you have done that? Try to motivate yourself by acting like a drill sergeant to yourself. If you hold yourself to very exacting standards, then your negative self talk is probably pretty harsh. And maybe you can relate to this quick anecdote that all throughout my life, I can remember beating myself up for only getting an A when my self talk was, well, you really should have earned an A plus. Using criticism as a motivator is something that's usually ingrained in us at a young age, whether that's through the school system, whether it's societal messages about success, you have to work harder, you need to always be better, or even if it's growing up in a home where you had demanding caregivers, for example. But the science shows negative self-talk is not an effective way to motivate yourself. And that doesn't mean not holding yourself accountable. I want to be clear about that. But self-criticism is associated with less motivation, worse self-control, because it shifts your brain into a fear state. It shifts your brain into a state of inhibition, which means that you don't want to take action. It prevents you from reaching your goals. I'm sure many of you are familiar with the idea of self-compassion. It can feel a little touchy-feely, but what I really love about this is the research that's come out of athletics, top performance, that shows that it is a very strong path to resiliency, emotional strength, confidence. And again, self-compassion does not mean letting yourself off the hook. It doesn't mean just saying, it's okay if you don't want to try. No, it's about gentleness combined with accountability. It means being kinder to yourself and having a better understanding of yourself with also holding yourself accountable to do more and be better. And there's so many different mental, personal benefits with this. Lower levels of depression, anxiety, worry, having a greater capacity to cope with negative emotions and situations. The flip side of that, more positive emotions, experiencing more happiness, wisdom, connectedness, increased optimism, and more personal initiative. So your brain is not in a fear state. You're in a calmer state where you can think more clearly and you feel more motivated to take action. I want to try a little self-compassion exercise with all of you here. I want you to take an example of a recent situation in that you were beating yourself up about. Maybe you sent an email to the wrong person. Maybe you made a mistake in a presentation. You botched something at work. Now, consider how a self-compassionate response would be different from how you responded in that moment. How would you have responded differently? Feel free to type in the chat. This is what's called cognitive reappraisal. When you are reassessing a situation through a more compassionate lens, and you're thinking to yourself, what would I say to a family member, a friend, my closest colleague who made a mistake, who didn't perform exactly like they hoped in that situation? And again, if you want, feel free to type in the chat. Ida was saying they're calm. They're calm in the situation. Yeah. And Teresa was saying, it took me a long time to accept I am where I am supposed to be. Yeah. Radical acceptance can be very transformative. Yeah. Sabrina was saying, accept doing mistakes and learn from them. Yes. All right. So there you have it. Those are our 5 confident myths and truths. So number 1, myth is you have to feel confident to take action. The truth, you have to take action to feel confident. Number 2, confidence is achieved through epic successes. Truth, confidence is achieved through small wins. 3, the myth is that confidence equates to unwavering self-belief. The truth is that confidence fluctuates. Number 4, confidence involves being pushy, loud, aggressive. The truth is that confidence does require assertiveness, but it's often understated. And 5, the myth is that confidence is motivated by self-criticism. And the truth is that confidence is motivated by self-compassion. So type in the chat which of these resonated with you the most, which of these stood out to you the most. Now, as a sensitive striver, I'm willing to bet you have been searching for tools to overcome your imposter syndrome, your insecurity at work for years, maybe even decades. And that can lead you down a path of frustration because things you've tried before, books, courses, what have you, maybe haven't seemed to move the needle. And why is this? It's because the typical tools that are offered are targeted at the other 80% of the population, the other 80% of people who don't have our wiring. So that advice you may be getting may offer a bit of relief. It may work temporarily, but soon you'll find yourself back in that same shame spiral. So what you need are strategies that are specialized to work for you as a sensitive striver. Ones that teach you how to use your sensitivity as a source of strength so you can break that self-doubt cycle and gain the lasting inner confidence you deserve. And that's where I come in. That is what I do day in and day out. I am a fellow sensitive striver. I have been a coach for over 10 years now. I've coached thousands of sensitive strivers at companies you've heard of, places like Google, Microsoft, Pfizer, Netflix. And my specialty is helping you channel your thoughts and emotions for success at work. And the result of my years of doing this work, my research and my experience is resilient. And it is a premier coaching program specifically designed for the 20% of us who identify as sensitive strivers. So if you want to 10x your confidence, if you want to free yourself from cycles of burnout and have a career that's sustainable, if you want to become a more powerful self-advocate and stop being a pushover, and if you want to be more present in your life and your family and actually enjoy your downtime, then I want to invite you to join us inside of Resilient. As I said, early enrollment closes very soon. There is a QR code here on the screen if you want to learn more about the program. You can also book a one-on-one call with me to chat about the program and your questions. I have very, very few time slots left. So if you're at all interested in that, you'll want to grab one of those ASAP. I'll also make sure the link for the program is in the chat as well. So if you're interested in learning more, make sure to head there. The is melodywilding.com/resilient. You can also DM me with any questions you have. Happy to connect. All right, that's all for today, everyone. We will be back on Monday with more. I hope you have a wonderful weekend and enjoy yourself. Take care, everybody.